Yo, welcome to the Table Talk podcast, where we sit down, pull up a chair, and we get started. This podcast is designed to provide you packed full of information to help you with your training, nutrition, lifestyle, and well-being, where we interview myself through case studies to give you lifetime experience. And then we also interview high-performing individuals or other career-focused people who are looking to make changes in their lifestyle, training, nutrition, and well-being. So let's pull up that chair and let's go.
So today we are talking about food for a smarter you, all about how to improve your memory, your mood and focus through the power of food. So there's quite a few things we're going to cover today. First, just drawing on some personal experience of forgetfulness. You know, sometimes we feel like we go to the shops to get that one thing, and how many times do we actually forget that one thing, right? And when you are like really focused on all the tasks that you need to do, how many times have you like gone through your head, I need to do this, 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 and this, and there's always something that you forget. So what is really getting in the way during these times? So to actually understand what's going on in our brain, we've got to think about the frontal lobe here, because the frontal lobe of the brain is actually the part that develops last. So it is the neural connections that develop last in the brain, and it only fully matures at about the age of 25. But the more important thing to remember about the frontal lobe is the fact that it is very vulnerable and it is very fluid. So what this means is actually that throughout our whole lifespan, it is actually kind of developing throughout, but kind of like up and down, depending on a few things. And we're going to talk about those few things that actually impact our frontal lobe, which is all about organizational skills, all about the tasks. So I want you to start thinking about cognition and cognitive performance like a bit of a spectrum. So if you think about the frontal lobe being this vulnerable and really fluid part of the brain, and you think about cognitive performance as being a spectrum, so depending on how we are treating our body and our brain, we're going to be improving cognitive performance or we're going to have a lack of it. So brain fog and cognitive performance is really like a spectrum. There's times that we're going to perform at our best, and there are times that we're not going to perform at our best, depending on what we're doing. And one of the things that really also gained a bit of media attention even was COVID, and long COVID in particular was shown to cause brain fog. Now, when we actually delve into what is it that's causing this brain fog after long COVID or during long COVID, the mechanism behind it was suggested to be inflammation, because when we have a lot of inflammation in the body and we have a lot of pain, well, then we can't really communicate really well between the brain and the body. There's just a lot of pain going on. So if you think about a time that you were in a lot of pain, say even after a really good workout, when you've got delayed onset muscle soreness and you're walking around really sore, what are you thinking about? Are you really thinking about the tasks that you need to do for the day, or the fact that your calves are burning, right? It's that kind of a thing. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kathy Ozarkovic and I'm a dietitian and a wellness coach. And my background, actually, how I got into doing wellness is I suffered with an eating disorder. I struggled with an eating disorder at a very young age. So between the ages of about 16 to 21, I struggled with an eating disorder. But more interestingly is the fact that even eating minimal amounts, to the point that sometimes I ate only one egg a day, I was able to get over 90% in my exams. So drawing on my own experience, and when I was preparing this presentation, I really thought about what are the things that I was doing even then that helped me perform at such a high cognitive level. So even though throughout the recovery I was improving my nutrition, what was I doing when I wasn't even eating that was getting me over the 90%? And I hope that today, as we go through these things, you'll start to piece together and really appreciate the holistic approach to cognitive performance. So at the end of the day, I really want you to have a toolbox of strategies to help you perform at your peak in terms of cognition. So we're going to go through understanding how nutrition choices actually impact your mood and cognition, understanding the 3 key fundamentals to good nutrition for optimal mood and cognitive performance, recalling supplements specific to improving focus, memory and mood, and we're only going to go through the kind of top few that I love to work with. Discuss what fasting regime is most appropriate to achieve optimal cognitive performance, and really appreciate the 6 pillars to wellness and the holistic approach to improving mood and cognition. So before we actually get into the nutrition of improving cognition, I want you to understand how it actually all works. Why is it that our nutrition choices can impact our mood and cognition? So I want you to think about food as chemicals. So food is carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and all these macronutrients and micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, they are all broken down in the body into simple chemicals. Like carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. These are chemicals in the body. So when we talk about metabolism in the body, all it is a host of reactions that is transforming food into fuel. So when you eat an apple, we're breaking down those carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We're breaking down those vitamins and minerals, and these chemicals are entering into metabolism, into chemical reactions in the body to actually produce energy. So how good of a metabolism we have is actually how good are those reactions happening in our body, how efficient we are at utilizing food and transforming it into energy. So basically, also it's important to know that our gut microbes, and I talk about the gut microbiome a lot, so our gut microbes are these little machines, bacteria that we have in our gut that act as little machines and actually eat the food for us. So when we're feeding ourselves, we're also feeding the bacteria that we host in our gut, mostly in our gut. We have them everywhere, but there's a lot of them, especially in our large intestine. So these bacteria actually eat the food that we eat and produce byproducts. So these byproducts are also chemicals, short-chain fatty acids, as well as other chemicals, that actually enter into the metabolism as well. And this is how our gut microbes actually impact metabolism. Depending on what we feed them, they're either going to be producing happy chemicals or sad chemicals. Now, happy chemicals are going to keep us happy and healthy. They're going to help boost our metabolism. Sad chemicals are going to weigh us down. They're going to cause a lot of inflammation. So to also understand the gut-brain axis, on the slides here we can see the gut-brain axis, and in the middle there is a nerve called the vagus nerve that is a direct link between our brain and our gut. So there is a very real physical nerve that is connecting our gut to our brain, and the communication is bidirectional. However, 80% of the communication goes from the gut to the brain. So now we're starting to understand why what we eat impacts how our brain works, because when we eat the food and those gut microbes are eating the food that we eat, the byproducts that they actually produce are going up to our brain and impacting our mood and our cognition and our focus. So our gut microbes and our gut microbiome actually produces 50 to 60% of our dopamine. So about 50 to 60% of our dopamine is produced in our gut. Dopamine is the drive molecule, the go-get-it, the motivation. And this molecule then travels up to our brain. The gut also produces about 90 to 95% of our serotonin. Serotonin is the happy chemical, but it's also known as the precursor to melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So actually focusing on what we eat and balancing our gut is going to help with our cognition. because of this gut-brain axis. And a beautiful study that they did to show this was the SMILES trial. And the SMILES trial is one of Australia's prides and joy when it comes to research papers, because it was done in Melbourne. And what they did is they actually took people, they recruited people who had mild to moderate depression, and they put them into two groups. So one group received only social support to help them with the depression. The other group actually had dietary intervention. So they tracked both groups for 12 weeks. The dietary group followed a modified Mediterranean diet, which is actually very similar to the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. And at the end of these 12 weeks, the group that had the dietary intervention had significantly more people achieved remission. So 32% of the people in the dietary group achieved remission of depression versus only 8% in the social support group. So this is not to... I really want to highlight that this is not to disregard the social support, because even if you are getting dietary support, you still have someone there. You still have a nutritionist or a dietitian or a wellness coach with whom you are talking and improving that your nutrition choices, right? So you still have someone to help you with accountability. So in a way, you're still getting social support, right? So I really want to highlight that together, in conjunction with social support, diet can be a very, very effective way to help us with our mood, cognition, and our focus. So just highlighting again that the gut-brain axis is bidirectional, and not only do our gut bacteria impact our brain and our mood, but our mood is going to impact what happens in our gut and how much of that dopamine and serotonin we're actually producing. And I'll get into this a little bit more later when I really want to highlight the 6 pillars to wellness, in particular how our mindset affects our gut as well. So a beautiful study that they did is also with a shake. So they took a group of people and they gave them a shake and said, this shake is very low in calories. It is for weight loss and you might feel hungrier after. So the participants had this shake, and throughout the day they tended to eat more, and their body actually released ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone. And then the next day they gave them a different shake and they said, this shake is really high in fat, so you might feel full. And then when they had this shake, the participants tended to eat less because they felt fuller, and their body released leptin, which is the fullness satiety hormone. In actual fact, the shake was exactly the same. The only difference was the beliefs that the participants had, which is again indicating how important our mindset and our beliefs are in helping the body release certain hormones. And again, these hormones being released are impacting how our gut works and how our brain works as well. So I really want you to understand the 3 key fundamentals to good nutrition for optimal mood and cognitive performance. And this is my way of breaking it down. So really, I had to think about what are those 3 key things I want you guys to remember from today. Number 1, antioxidants. Number 2, anti-inflammatory foods. And number 3, the 2 mood-enhancing nutrients that I place a lot of emphasis on. So first of all, antioxidants. So antioxidants protect and improve brain function. So antioxidants actually reduce oxidative stress. And what is oxidative stress? Well, if we have a lot of oxidative stress in the body, we have trouble detoxing. And like I said, food is chemicals, and we're just breaking down these chemicals in the body. There's going to be byproducts. There's going to be some toxins. This is why we have a liver. This is why we have kidneys. They help the body detoxify and get rid of what we don't need anymore. So if we have too much oxidative stress, it's going to put too much pressure on the body in terms of this detoxing process. And then we're going to have trouble actually repairing the body as well. So now think back to what I said in the beginning. If we've got a lot of inflammation in the body and a lot of pain, well, if there's a lot of oxidative stress and we're having trouble detoxing, well, now our brain's not going to be working so well. And the symptoms of oxidative stress include fatigue, memory loss, muscle and joint pain, and even worsening eyesight. So you can start to see the correlation between, if I have a lot of oxidative stress in my body, well, my cognitive performance is not going to be at its peak either. The other thing I want to highlight about antioxidants and the research that was done, 2 research studies that showed cherry juice daily improved speech and memory in people aged over 70 with mild to moderate dementia. Really want to highlight that. So these people had mild to moderate dementia, and having cherry juice daily improved their speech and memory because of the amount of antioxidants in the cherry juice, which are reducing oxidative stress and reducing inflammation. And then also other studies have showed that antioxidants increase blood flow to and activate the brain areas that control memory, language, and attention. So we're increasing blood flow to the brain, which means that the brain is actually going to be working better. With antioxidants, we achieve that increased blood flow. I really want to highlight, when it comes to antioxidants and inflammation, that antioxidants, which reduce oxidative stress, are anti-inflammatory. So antioxidants are anti-inflammatory because they are reducing oxidative stress. But not all anti-inflammatory foods are going to be high in antioxidants. I really want to highlight that one. The other thing I want to highlight is that most research papers have been done with real food. So when I talk about real food, I mean whole foods. This research on antioxidants has not been done with antioxidant supplements. Although we have antioxidant supplements on the market, it's not the same as eating the whole food, because when we eat the whole food, we get a whole host of good chemicals. We get the fiber with it. We get the polyphenols. We get all the different types of antioxidants. If we're only focusing on the one antioxidant, we're missing out on a host of other great stuff that is impacting our metabolism in a positive way. So I really want to highlight that. Real food. Just a few antioxidants that have been shown specifically to help with our memory. Anthocyanin, and you'll start to notice a pattern with our antioxidants, that they are mostly present in dark foods. Dark purple, dark green, these very dark coloured foods like black plums, blood oranges, cherries, black and red grapes, pomegranates, raspberries, blueberries. In vegetables, red cabbage, red onion, radishes, eggplant, legumes and rice like black beans, black rice, black soybeans. Really dark foods have a lot of antioxidants. Dark purple, dark blue, pretty much like the shirt that I'm wearing today. And then this study in the US, a study of 25,000 adults in the US found an association between eating mushrooms and lower odds of depression. Now, this is really interesting because they actually associated to the antioxidant present in mushrooms, but there's one other thing in mushrooms that I will highlight later that could be also impacting this as well. But it's just good to remember mushrooms help us with our mood. Other sources of antioxidants: kale, spinach, dark chocolate, beets, artichokes, goji berries, all types of berries, pecan nuts. So again, really highlighting they're all these really dark foods. Now, number 2 out of the 3 key things to help us with our brain cognition is anti-inflammatory foods. Now, anti-inflammatory foods, I like to describe them as real foods. Anything that grows in the ground, anything that grows on a tree, on a shrub, anything that was once running or swimming around. So really these are foods that we recognize, foods that your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother would recognize as food. Now, if you gave your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother a packaged food, do you think she would recognize it or the ingredients on it? Probably not. So we can start to think about anti-inflammatory foods as so what do we want to avoid? So what's the opposite? What are the inflammatory stuff? And that will actually help us create this picture of what foods do we want to have more of? What do we want to have less of? So think processed foods, foods with lots of ingredients in their list that we do not recognize, foods with the letter E in the ingredients list, anything that you don't recognize. When you turn over the packaging and if there's something that you can't decipher on that, it's probably not a real food. So we want the least processed. We want foods as close to its natural form as possible. Like I said, anything that grows in a tree, in the ground, on a shrub, anything that was once running or swimming around. We want to be avoiding refined sugars, saturated fats from animal sources, trans fats, high glycemic index foods, so high GI foods. They get into the bloodstream really quickly, they raise our blood sugars really quickly, and think ADHD, and if you're really high on sugar, well, your cognition is not going to be ideal. You're going to be feeling very scattered. Nutrient poor and energy dense foods, again those processed foods, fake foods, highly processed refined foods, artificial additives, preservatives, sugars, fillers, unknown ingredients. So again, these foods have actually been shown to impact the gut microbiome, and we know how important the gut microbiome is in speaking to the brain. So if we are affecting the gut microbiome in a negative way, you can bet that you're affecting your brain in a negative way as well, because 80% of the communication is going up to the brain. Also, medications that cause drowsiness. This is something people probably wouldn't even think about, but if you're feeling cognitively not so good, are you taking any medication that is actually causing drowsiness? It might be specific to you, it might be well known that it causes drowsiness, but it might not. It might just be that this medication is impacting your gut microbiome in a particular way, individualized to you. So let's have a look at what actual medications you're taking as well. Number 3, so the 3 key things to help you improve your mood, memory, and cognitive performance. Number 3 is the 2 mood enhancing nutrients that I want to emphasize, which are vitamin D and omega-3s. Now, remember I spoke about mushrooms just a little bit ago? So they found that antioxidant in mushrooms that may improve mood and help protect from depression. But the other thing I really want to highlight is that mushrooms actually have a significant amount of vitamin D. Mushrooms actually absorb vitamin D from the sun. So here's one thing that they didn't account for in that research. They didn't actually think, oh, maybe it's the vitamin D, because we know that vitamin D helps with our mood as well. Other sources of vitamin D include eggs. So 2 whole eggs actually have 80% of our vitamin D requirements. But the best way to get our vitamin D is, of course, the sun. We want to get outside and get some sunshine. Omega-3s, so think fatty fish, think flax seeds, chia seeds, avocados, and all those good stuff. Again, they're all real foods. All right, I want to talk a little bit about specific supplements for improving focus, memory, and mood. And this is a little list of my favorite. So magnesium trionate is this miracle magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. I think it takes like 10 to 15 minutes to work, honestly, when I take it. It is that quick to lift any brain fog and make sure that you're just switched on. And it improves brain health as well, and it improves cognition. L-theanine, I love L-theanine because it actually helps to reduce anxiety. More specifically, I love L-theanine because it can help when we're taking caffeine. So when we're having coffee, L-theanine will actually help reduce the anxiety that caffeine may cause us if we've had it too much. And L-theanine reduces the stress hormone cortisol, and it reduces inflammation post-exercise. Now remember what I said about inflammation. If we have too much inflammation in the body, our brain's going to be too busy focusing on the pain and inflammation. So if we can help reduce that, then we are going to achieve better cognitive performance. The ratio of L-theanine to caffeine that I want you to remember is 2:1. So that is L-theanine to caffeine. What this means is that if we are having 100 milligrams of caffeine, which is about a small long black, we want to be having 200 milligrams of L-theanine. And it is most effective when we have L-theanine 1 hour before having the coffee or the caffeine. Now, this is going to help us reduce the anxiety that caffeine may induce. The other one is Go-To Cola, which helps reduce the stress hormone cortisol again, and it helps us adapt to stress. So it's used in traditional Eastern medicine and Western medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. The one underneath that, ashwagandha, calms the nervous system, also reduces the stress hormone cortisol, and it supports the adrenals, which then removes mental blocks. Now, these two, Go-To Cola helps adapt to stress. Ashwagandha helps calm the nervous system. So now I want you to start thinking about when you would use which. So Go-To Cola is something that I would actually use during the day because it helps you adapt to stress and stressors, whereas ashwagandha may be more appropriate during the night when you're really going to sleep, as it helps to calm the nervous system. I've listed vitamin D and omega-3s there as well, because absolutely we in Australia are not getting enough of either of these. So this is a supplement that I highly recommend to everyone. In fact, probably vitamin D, if you go to a GP, they're just looking at you having just a sufficient level. So they just want you to be like over 50 on the vitamin D scale. But if you ask an endocrinologist, they want to see your vitamin D level above 75. So already we have a discrepancy here, and the research actually shows that if your vitamin D is between 100 and 120, you're preventing some types of cancers, really those hormonal cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer. So I want all my clients to be between 100 and 120 when it comes to their vitamin D levels. And very often we need a supplement to get it up there. Now, the last supplement that I want to talk about to enhance focus, memory, and mood is caffeine. And I have a slide specific for caffeine because we love our coffee, don't we? Now, when it comes to caffeine and coffee, I really want to highlight that the dosage and the timing matters, and it will be very individual to you. So I really want to highlight this equation that Andrew Huberman shared on his podcast, which is people accustomed to caffeine. So this means that if you are a regular drinker of coffee, if you drink coffee every day, you are accustomed to having caffeine in your system. For you, a dosage of 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight in the single dosage is going to be okay and hopefully not induce a lot of anxiety. So if I take myself as an example at about 70 kilos, anywhere between 70 milligrams to 210 milligrams in one sitting, which will be about a small long black, 2 shots of coffee, about 2 to 3 shots of coffee in the one sitting shouldn't give me too much anxiety if I'm having coffee every day, right? But if you are someone who's not used to having coffee every day and caffeine every day, this might send you like ADHD, anxiety, lots of other symptoms, right? Heart palpitations. So you really need to just be conscious of how much caffeine we're having. And what is your baseline? What is normal for you? For best effect, physical and mental, abstain for 2 to 3 days or use it on an empty stomach. Again, this is going to be individual to you. So if you're used to having caffeine every day, just having it on an empty stomach may help you get better benefits for cognition and performance. Like if you need to study something, having it on empty stomach may just improve your cognition, or going into a training, for example. It's going to help with your physical performance as well. But really, research has shown that if you can abstain from caffeine for 20 days, you're going to get huge cognitive performance when you reintroduce it. And this can be hard for people who are accustomed to it because we get caffeine withdrawals as well. But the benefits of actually having caffeine not every day, but every second day or every third day. So if you want the cognitive performance benefits, you're going to be considering having coffee like every second day or so. Also, caffeine has shown a positive effect after being exposed to learning material. So do your learning material first, study, go to the seminar first, and then have the caffeine after or the coffee after, given that it's not too late in the day. That is actually going to help you retain more information. How does it do this? It actually spikes our adrenaline, and that actually helps improve memory. Now, if it's too late in the day, another way that you can achieve this is with cold exposure therapy. So actually having a cold shower, 2 to 3 minutes below 10 degrees, it's going to achieve the same thing as having that coffee. Personally, I would have the coffee. Wouldn't like to do the cold exposure therapy, but if it's too late in the day, it is something to consider. The other thing I want to highlight is that coffee has lots of antioxidants because it is from a cherry bean. So antioxidants, going back to what I said before, reducing oxidative stress, also reducing inflammation. We can actually get the benefits of these antioxidants and anti-inflammatory properties by having decaf. So again, trick your brain into thinking that you're having caffeine by having a decaf, but you're going to reap the benefits of the antioxidants, right? The other thing I want to highlight is that sleep is more important. Getting our good night's sleep is always going to be more important in retaining information and optimal cognitive performance than having coffee. So that night's sleep is going to outweigh any caffeine that you have in the day. In particular, caffeine can impact our REM sleep. So REM sleep is rapid eye movement sleep. It is also known as the dreams. So REM sleep is actually the type of sleep that helps us process our emotions and our traumas. So if we're not getting enough REM sleep because we've had too much caffeine, we are going into the next day with a lot of emotional baggage. And that emotional baggage is what is going to hijack our frontal lobe, and we're not going to be able to actually function well and make decisions and do those organizational tasks because our frontal lobe is responsible for that. But we have so much emotional baggage, our limbic brain takes over. So that's why sleep is very, very important. And if you can switch to decaf from midday afterwards, that will help in terms of your sleep as well. because of the half-life of caffeine being about 6 to 8 hours, depending if you're a fast metabolizer or not. Now, the next topic I want to discuss is fasting. So I want to highlight a few things about fasting. First of all, fasting research has shown fasting increases brain-derived neurotropic factor. So brain-derived neurotropic factor is actually a protein. So this protein has actually been found to improve existing and new neural pathways. So it supports the development of new neural pathways as well as preserving any existing ones. So we can achieve an increase in brain-derived neurotropic factor by fasting. Now, when I say fasting, I talk about a fasting window. And this is something that I highlight with my clients when they ask me about fasting. When is your last meal at night? When are you having dinner? And when is your first meal in the morning? This is what I mean by our fasting window, because you are fasting throughout the night. We do not have to go to extremes to achieve a suitable fasting window to reap the benefits. Fasting anywhere between 12 to 16 hours is enough. There are no additional benefits of extending the fast to 16 hours. You can reap the benefits with a minimum of 12 hours, and these benefits are gut health benefits and cognitive performance benefits. So if 12 hours is working for you, great, stay at 12. No need to extend it to 16. If 14 hours is working for you, great, let's keep it at 14. Let's find what works for you best and what actually allows you to have your meals throughout the day as well, which is, I talk about chrononutrition soon as well. Just want to highlight that hydration is very important as well. So when we are fasting, remembering to hydrate, because even mild dehydration affects our cognitive performance. One more point I want to say about fasting is that when we are eating, we are switching on our parasympathetic nervous system. So our parasympathetic nervous system is also known as our rest and digest. I really want to highlight digest. Our sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response. So when we are eating, we are switching on our parasympathetic nervous system in order to digest our food. When we are fasting, we are slightly in this sympathetic nervous system. And that is what is actually going to give us a bit of a better, that cognitive edge, because you are sharper, you are more switched on. So that's why fasting can actually help us when we want to be cognitively at our best. The last thing I want to say about the fasting regime is chrononutrition. So chrononutrition is actually related to when it is that we do eat in the day. So I address this when I help my clients actually achieve that fasting window. And then we look at how many meals are you having a day? At what time are you eating? Because when you eat does matter. Consistency is key with when you are having your meals, and really making sure that they are about the same size and being consistent, not actually skipping meals, actually having the same meals every day. It impacts our circadian rhythm, and our circadian rhythm is our sleep patterns, which actually impacts our metabolism. Going back to everything being reactions and how efficiently we are actually turning food into fuel, chrononutrition, when we eat, affects our metabolism. And this actually impacts our insulin sensitivity as well. So consistency being key, eating at the same times, eating approximately the same amounts of foods is going to be beneficial for increasing insulin sensitivity. Having that fasting window is going to be beneficial for increasing insulin sensitivity, which means that we are better at converting carbohydrates into fuel. And chrononutrition might be also the reason why shift workers suffer so much metabolic syndrome, which is affecting the metabolism. So this is a new area of research that is showing us and explaining to us why shift workers have increased blood pressure, increased cholesterol, so all these things that are actually related to metabolism. Now, the last thing I want to cover, and I want you to appreciate, is that apart from nutrition, we have other areas of life that impact our cognitive performance. I go on and on about the 6 pillars to wellness, and nutrition is only one of them. So today we really went in depth about nutrition. We talked about the gut-brain axis. We talked about the gut and the brain being physically connected with the vagus nerve. 80% of communication going from the gut to the brain. A lot of serotonin, 95% of serotonin produced in the gut, 50 to 60% of dopamine being produced in the gut and traveling up to our brain. Now, the 3 nutritional keys to improving mood and cognition were: number 1, antioxidants; number 2, anti-inflammatory foods; and number 3, the 2 nutrients that I highlighted were vitamin D and omega-3s to help with our mood and cognition. And supplements specific to mood and cognitive performance that we talked about today: magnesium threonate, L-theanine, gotu kola, ashwagandha, and caffeine. Now, the second pillar to wellness is movement. So movement and exercise actually increases blood flow to the brain. Now, increasing blood flow to the brain is going to improve cognitive performance. 20 minutes of movement before any learning material, before we need to be switched on for something to improve our cognitive performance, or only 20 minutes. So even if it's 20 minutes in the morning before the kids get up, you spend 20 minutes doing some exercise, that's going to help you cognitively perform better, to get through your morning routine with the kids better, to get them ready for school, to get them breakfast ready and their bags ready, right? That's actually going to help you with that decision making in the morning. So how does it actually work? Well, exercise actually increases synaptogenesis. Synaptogenesis is the formation of synapses, the points of contact where information is transmitted between neurons. So think of it as exercise improves communication between neurons. It's just quicker, it's more efficient. And some of you may not be happy to hear this. I know that I wasn't. But long-lasting, moderate aerobic exercise, so think running, think skipping, think Stairmaster, think cardio, think runner's high. So long-lasting, moderate cardio is going to help get that runner's high. And a runner's high, think about positive chemicals, all those happy chemicals that give you that high. That is what is going to help you actually perform better. It's going to improve your mood, but also cognitively it's going to help you for the rest of the day. And of course, exercise helps to decrease stress hormones, and in the long run helps you decrease inflammation. There is a slight increase in inflammation after exercise, but long term it helps decrease inflammation. The next pillar to wellness I want to highlight is sleep, that is going to help us with our mood and cognitive performance. So with sleep, I want to highlight again what I talked about before is the limbic brain and the frontal lobe. So the limbic brain is the part of the brain that is responsible for our mood and our emotions and our memories. So REM sleep being the type of sleep really important to help us actually process our emotions and our traumas and to recover. So when we go to sleep, sleep is like a washing machine. So it actually acts as a washing machine and gets rid of all the gunk, all the sad, negative, stressful chemicals that we experience throughout the day. So if we don't get enough sleep, we are literally going into a new day with yesterday's gunk, with yesterday's emotional baggage. And this emotional baggage is our limbic brain taking over. If our limbic brain is taking over, then our frontal lobe can't do its job. It can't help us process information and tasks. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is naps. Naps are great. Research has shown that naps do improve cognitive performance as long as they're not making you groggy. So there is a certain point, and this certain point will actually be individual to you, right? Some people feel fine after 20 minutes. Some people say 30 minutes is too much. Some people say 30 minutes is just enough for them. Some people are like 45 minutes, I start feeling groggy. You need to experiment a little bit, trial and error and correction. I always highlight that with my clients. Try it, give it a go, see how you feel. Tracking builds awareness. Track your naps. How many minutes did you nap for? How did you feel when you woke up? Do that experiment for yourself. Take 7 days and have a nap every day and record how you're feeling so you can find what your sweet spot is. The other thing is you do not want your naps to be affecting your nighttime sleep, because that nighttime sleep is most important. Always prioritize your nighttime sleep. Non-deep sleep rest is similar to Yoga Nidra. The difference is that Yoga Nidra has intentions. Non-deep sleep rest does not set intentions, but you can actually find recordings that can help you nap and use this type of a non-deep sleep rest. So NDSR is about 10 to 20 minutes. Yoga Nidra is about 45, even an hour. So again, it's finding your sweet spot. Maybe NDSR is better for you, so you're going to stick to those recordings of 10 to 20 minutes. Maybe Yoga Nidra, a bit of a longer rest, is better for you, and you're going to stick to those recordings. Again, finding what works for you. Maybe you don't want a recording. Maybe you just want to set your alarm on or your timer. Another pillar to wellness that I talk about is optimizing the stress response. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. There is a sweet spot to stress. We need a little bit of stress for us to perform at our best. So, like I said, with the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system is the one where we're going to be releasing our stress hormone, our cortisol, and a little bit of stress is actually going to help us perform better. So this curve here, the bell-shaped curve, beautifully emphasizes and shows us that if we don't have enough stress, we're not at peak performance. If we have too much stress, we're not at peak performance because we can't engage, we can't think straight. So if we're not getting enough stress, we're under stressed, we are bored, we are lacking motivation, we are laid back too much, we're just relaxed, unmotivated. Whereas if we have too much stress, we're overwhelmed, we're approaching burnout, we are anxious, panicky, we're having a breakdown basically. Whereas that sweet spot, optimal stress, we're going to be performing optimally, we're going to be engaged, we're going to be energized, we're going to be on our toes, we're going to be ready, right? Another thing I want to emphasize is check yourself. What is your baseline? When do you feel cognitively best? And just check in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? What's going on? What do I need more of? Do I need more motivation? So think motivation, dopamine, cold exposure therapy helps with dopamine. Caffeine helps with dopamine as well. So having a toolbox of strategies to help you reach your peak performance. Again, just emphasizing the limbic brain versus the frontal lobes. We really want to engage the frontal lobe. In order to engage the frontal lobe, we want to make sure that the pressure is off the limbic brain. We want to make sure that we are emotionally coping, that we are not overstressed. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight with that is decision fatigue. If we are making too many decisions throughout the day, we're starting to get tired. And we're starting to get emotional. So think if you've had a really busy day of making decisions and organizing tasks and taking the kids to school and taking them to their activities after school and driving to 5 different places in the day, suddenly when we get home and it's time to make dinner, we don't know what we're going to have for dinner. That decision becomes the biggest decision of our life because we have no more capacity to make decisions. Our frontal lobe is just so tired. One of the things that I do on purpose is standardize my wardrobe. I have 14 of these shirts. 14. I am not thinking about doing my washing until I'm 10 days in. I don't have to because I know that I've got 14 shirts with different designs on the back and I don't have to worry. I don't worry about what I'm going to wear to the gym. It's decided for me. I have 4 different types of flannies that I can change around. Again, I'm reducing the decisions that I have to make in the day so that I have more capacity for the more important decisions, for the bigger decisions. So really think about what can you do to help yourself decrease those decisions, right? So even thinking about meal times. If you set your meal times, there's no question about it. I'm eating at this time. And if you know what you're eating and you've got a few things on rotation, again, there's no thinking about it. It's set. If we can reduce the uncertainty in our life, that is actually going to help us when we need to make those bigger, more important decisions. The next pillar to wellness that I want to cover is light therapy. Now, light therapy is increasing in popularity as we are seeing more research come out and how it affects us, in particular, seasonal affective disorder, which happens during the winter months, an increase in depression and anxiety because we're not getting enough sunshine. And one of the ways that people have started to address this is light boxes. You may also know, what's it called? Saunas. Saunas now have light therapy embodied into them as well. But basically, all we need is an early morning walk. We are aiming to get 10,000 lux being the unit of light. So 10,000 lux, we can get this on a cloudy day with 30 minutes walking in the morning. 30 minutes walking in the morning, if we make it a jog, we're reaping the benefits of that long-lasting moderate cardio that's going to help us with cognition, and we're getting our 10,000 lux as well. So we're addressing 2 birds with 1 stone straight away. On a sunny day, we'll be getting 50,000 lux with a 30-minute walk. So easy, we just need to get outside, even on a cloudy day. And also light therapy and exposing our eyes to that early morning sunshine, not looking directly at the sun. We do not have to do that. Even wearing sunglasses is fine. The light will actually get into our eyes, and this will help reset our circadian rhythm. This will help signal to our brain to release melatonin 16 hours later, which is then going to help us sleep better and help our metabolism again. The last pillar to wellness that I want to talk about is spirituality or mindset. So, like I said in the beginning, how we think is actually going to affect how our gut works as well and what hormones we are releasing. I used the example of the thick shake research, where the only thing that was different was actually what they believed about what they were eating, and that affected the hormones that they released. Really emphasizing that our thinking patterns can improve or worsen the brain fog, the cognitive performance. So if we're beating ourselves up after we maybe made a wrong decision, we think that we've made a wrong decision, if we're beating ourselves up because we forgot to take one of the kids to an after school thing, if we're beating ourselves up because we forgot to, I don't know, pick up dinner on the way home, this beating ourselves up is actually going to worsen our cognitive performance. So really focusing on celebrating our successes and showing ourselves compassion. Really focusing on being compassionate and recognizing that, yeah, we have a lot going on in life. Yeah, we're not always at our peak performance. Like 2 days ago, I was at a music festival. I do not feel at my peak performance right now, and that's okay. And it's just recognizing and being aware of these things so that next time, maybe I'll give myself an extra day to rest. Maybe I will taper my caffeine intake a little bit better, right? It's noticing these things and going in with that compassion so that I can be better prepared for next time. Use it or lose it, even with your brain, keep learning, because consistency is key, and really learning a new language, even watching this seminar, learning about whatever it is that you have an interest in, really delving into the research and learning new things is creating new neural pathways in your brain, is helping you be at your peak performance. Because if you're not learning, if you're not growing, those neural pathways are just wasting away. And research has actually shown that we can develop new neural pathways even in our 90s. And the placebo effect has been shown effective even in people with Alzheimer's disease, which means that they are actually improving their symptoms and they are actually developing new neural pathways. So use it or lose it. It's really important. Even new hobbies, new experiences, going traveling. This is putting yourself in a little bit of discomfort so that you can cognitively perform better. Like I said, that little bit of stress of being in a new environment is actually going to make you cognitively perform better. And a really, really good book I recommend by Carol Dweck, Mindset, talking about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset and what we nowadays have as a false growth mindset. Really focusing on the growth mindset, because having that growth mindset and really it's all about being open to learning. It's all about having a mindset of, yeah, I don't know this yet and I can learn it. Whereas a fixed mindset says, I'm never going to get good at this. I don't know this. My intelligence is fixed. I was born this way. A growth mindset says, I can learn. I will learn to do this. It will take time and effort, and the more I try, the better I get at it. This is your opportunity to review what we went through today. What are your top 3 takeaways from today? What have you remembered? What are you going to implement? What is one small change you will make to your lifestyle to improve your mood and cognitive performance? And who do you know that needs to hear this information? Who do you know that's been really struggling with brain fog? Who do you know that their baseline has dropped? You know, think about where you were when you were at uni or when you were at school. Were you a straight A student, or maybe you were getting B's and now you feel like you're just barely going through life, just surviving and not remembering stuff? Well, if once upon a time you were cognitively performing that high, no doubt in my mind, you can cognitively perform really high now. Let's look at what's happening around in your lifestyle. What are those things that we want to work on to help you perform at your best? If you have any questions or any shares, I would love to hear from you. Send me an email, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. I would love to get your feedback on what you thought about today's seminar. What are those things that you are taking away? And if you have any questions about the supplements that I supply, if you would like to improve your cognitive performance using supplementation, please reach out, book in a discovery call. Let's talk about your next steps to improving your mood, your cognitive performance, and your focus through the power of food. Thank you. This event is for everyone who wants to improve their cognitive performance, wants to be at peak cognitive performance, wants to make decisions easier, wants to just thrive in life rather than survive, and understand how food can help us in decision making, in our mood. It even, if you think about it, improving your mood and your cognitive performance and your focus is also going to help in your relationships as well, be it your intimate relationships or your family and friends. If you can achieve a better mood, you will be a more loving person, and people will want to be around you more often as well. So everybody should attend this. Hey guys, thanks for attending this seminar today, how to improve your cognitive performance through the power of food. Like and subscribe below and share me around.
Hey, thanks so much for joining the episode of Table Talk today. We hope you found some helpful tips and inspiration in staying healthy and fit, even with a busy schedule. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Stay tuned for our next conversation. Until then, keep prioritizing yourself, your health, your fitness, and we'll see you on the next Table Talk.